Good morning and welcome to Maryland Today. My name is Jeff St. Pierre and I'd like to welcome back to the studio Nina Heck. She's the Director of Counseling and Client Services at GuideWell Financial Solutions. We're going to be chatting today about student loans. Always a pleasure to have you here, Nina.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me back.
So this is the season when college students graduate, they enter the world of work. With that in mind, we're going to take a little bit of a look here at student loans today. Nina, we've all heard that student loan debt is on the rise. It's a very large thing out there. Why is this such a compelling issue?
Well, according to the Federal Reserve Bank, Jeff, the outstanding student loan balances in the U.S. right now is at $1.16 trillion. So many of our students are graduating and coming back and probably going into the job search process without a job at this time. And, of course, they may be facing student loans that are going to be ready to be due, very shortly. So it's something that they need to take very serious and try to get those job searches done sooner rather than later. The other thing is to keep in mind that parents are often co-signed on these loans.
Sure.
So in the event that the job doesn't pan out, if the parents co-sign the student loans are coming due, then, the parents now have that burden.
I know every time I forget to pay my bill immediately on time, they call my dad.
Yes, and they will. They will.
I only missed the payment by 12 hours. Breathe for a second. I will get that money to you. Don't worry. But of course, my dad's on the phone. Hey, did you pay this?
Did you pay? Yeah,
but how many graduates actually leave school owing on student loans?
So this is really huge. There's 94% of the graduates this spring will come out with some form of student loan debts. The student loan debts have really increased over the last several years, and at this point, grads are coming out with an average of $33,000 of student loan debt. And, of course, keep in mind that they're looking at entry-level positions in some cases that may not be able to support that type of debt. The other thing that I wanted to make a point on is that the hardest hit group are people in their 30s that during the last couple of years when the economy dropped, they went back into school as the grad loans became more readily accessible, and they went back into school. Their average loan debt is about $57,000. So it's a lot of debt.
So entering the work world here, what do graduates need to know about these student loans?
Okay, one of the things that I always recommend, and I've done this with my daughters with student loans, so this is a topic that's very near and dear to me. Pull out a list, pull out your packet where you've actually kept all of the student loan information. You want to itemize your list by federal loan, private loan, public loan. You want to know what the balances are, the repayment terms, and you want to know what the interest rates are on each of the loans. One of the things you can do if you are not sure how many of your loans might be federal loans, there's a website you can go to. It's the National Student Loan Data System for students. It's www.N for national, S for student, L for loan, D for data, system, s.ed.gov. And also for private loans, I would just recommend it. They will send something, but if for any reason you don't have the information on them, rely on your packet or go back to your financial aid person at your college and they can help you with that.
And again, one more time, that website you mentioned is nslds.ed.gov.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff.
No problem. Well, I've heard that it's also important to know that your grace period for each loan. Why is that so important?
Well, the grace period is the time that the loan allows you to begin repayment. So you need to know what this is because what you don't want to do is start out behind, okay? Some of the loans, like the federal Stafford loans, will come due within 6 months of your graduation. But you have to keep in mind you could have some private loans that as soon as you graduate, maybe in May if that's the case, they're due in June. So you need to know that information. That's why I said to add that to your list when you're making it.
Yeah, and grace period does not mean, folks, I learned this the hard way, it does not mean spend every penny that you make during that grace period time.
Absolutely
because you
not.
don't have the loans to pay just yet. Better to maybe put some money away for when they do start.
and another good point that I try to make, if you have listeners out there that haven't graduated yet, some of these private loans will send information while you're in college asking you to pay the interest. It doesn't hurt to do that because that's that much less that'll be added to that loan.
Sure.
Oftentimes people just tuck those aside nicely and say, I'll wait for that when I finish school. But if you have the means to pay it, pay that so your loan doesn't end up larger than what it was when you signed for.
Yeah, every little bit helps for sure. What repayment options are available to graduates who owe on student loans?
So you have some different options. When it comes to the federal loans, you're generally looking at a 10-year repayment plan. If there's a problem with being able to make those payments, they do have the ability to extend them out. So that's something that you can look into with the federal loans. One of the options they offer, it's called an income-based repayment, an IBR, and it'll be based on what your current employment status is, and you'll have to go in and submit the proper information to qualify for it. But in doing so, what can happen is it can allow them to extend the loan out sometimes as much as 25 years at a lesser payment that's more suitable to the income. And, of course, that's subject to change if the income goes up. But it is an option that's available to students, especially for those. And then as far as forgiveness, a lot of students ask about forgiveness. What happens is there are forgiveness options available for people who teach or work for the government, health care providing, different types of nonprofit organizations. So that's an option also.
Do private loan lenders offer repayment programs like this IBR you mentioned?
The private loans do not offer this, Jeff. However, what they should do is they should reach out to their lender or go onto their web base, because there are other incentives such as like interest-only loans where they can just make an interest payment only for a certain period of time. So that is something that would be available to them.
We're covering a lot of information here today. Nina, can you do me a favor? If people are looking to find more information or maybe get in touch with you at GuideWell Financial Solutions to ask some questions, where can they go to do that?
So they can call us at 1-800-642-2227. And they can also access us on our website, which is GuideWell, F for Financial, S for Solutions.org. And we have a lot of information on our website as well, Jeff.
That website is packed with information. Again, that's guidewellfs.org. Okay, Nina, what advice would you give to grads as they begin payment on these student loans?
So you want to go back to your list. I keep driving that force because that's what tells us who you've got and what you owe. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you pay your payments on time. And then, as I've encouraged my daughters, if they have extra, send extra. And probably single
Nobody
out.
likes to hear that, but it's a smart idea.
It is a smart, because the sooner you get rid of some, it allows you to put more money to others. And, one of the ways that you might want to go at that or make that plan would be based upon who has the higher interest rate of the loans that you have. So if you can obviously add additional monies to that, then it'll allow you to pay that loan off sooner, thus saving on some of that interest. The key to that, though, is making sure you save the records. I keep pushing this with my daughters because they're bad about saving things, but you want to make sure that you have the documentation that they've sent, or if it's online, print it, keep it somewhere so you have proof that you have, in fact, paid extra and what the current balances are on your loans.
So what if graduates find themselves in a position where they can't make these loan payments?
We see this quite often because this is when people start calling our organization. A lot of things happen. They can, maybe they're unemployed or underemployed, or maybe it's because of health reasons that they have, or just simply financial challenges. So the federal loans provides a couple of options, which are the deferment and also the forbearance. For both of these, you're going to reach out into their websites and have to complete an application in order to qualify for those. The difference being the deferment will temporarily suspend your payments for a certain period of time. Then, of course, the forbearance is similar to the deferment, but the difference being is that the payments will accrue interest while they're not being made. So that's something you want to take into consideration in looking at either of these options. And then also keep in mind with the private lenders, they may offer deferments or forbearances, but they're not required by law to have those.
When can a student loan be completely canceled or forgiven?
I always laugh at this because it's kind of like taxes.
Yeah.
Your federal student loans, if the borrower dies, obviously they're not going to be held responsible, or if they suffer a permanent disability, or perhaps the school they've been attending loses its certification, or maybe they're still in school with the school that they have student loans and the school closes. Then they're not obligated to make those repayments. Some of the loans are eligible for full and partial forgiveness. And again, this is kind of what we were talking about just a little bit earlier. So the forgiveness programs work for people that are member of the armed forces. They teach or provide services for needy populations, work in the healthcare, law enforcement, or they even belong to some of the government volunteer groups such as Peace Corps or VISTA. So you want to check with your school, your lender, your employer for details on those programs.
Somebody once told me, I asked them about that same question, when can a student loan be completely canceled or forgiven? And they once said to me, have you ever seen the performance of A Christmas Carol? And I said, yes. Picture Jacob Marley with all those chains wrapped around him.
Exactly.
That's how you should consider these college loans.
Very much the same.
Well, Nina, is consolidation also a possibility for graduates who are having difficulty paying the student loans?
It can be, Jeff. One of the things that we try to encourage people is to consider the fact that if they're federal loans, you can absolutely consolidate all your federal loans into one consolidated payment, which will hopefully give you maybe a lower payment. You want to keep in mind what the terms are on that and understand, again, if you're extending it out, you're probably going to pay a little bit more in doing so, but the payment may be more affordable. The thing you don't want to necessarily do is combine your private loans with your federal loans and make a consolidation through the private lender, because then you could forego the ability to have those forbearances or deferments or even that forgiveness program, because those are tied to a federal loan product.
Well, I understand the default rate on student loans has doubled in the past few years. If you stop making payments, how does this affect your long-term financial outlook?
As with any credit, Jeff, you don't want to stop making payments. So the consequences with defaulting on the loans, meaning that you've not made payments in more than 270 days, will actually cause collection agencies to become more aggressive. They'll turn them over to an agency who thus becomes more aggressive. And then also you can have your tax refund intercepted, and you may be liable for a garnishment of upwards of 15% of what your net pay is. So those are things that will immediately come to life and really make a hardship, for the student. Also, keep in mind that this would apply for the parent who may be co-signed on the loan as well. So they're not going to, if they have both of your signatures, they're coming after both of you. The default rate also impacts your credit history, because obviously when you don't make payments, you have your credit report's going to suffer from that, and then you've got the long-term effects from that as well.
Is bankruptcy ever an option for graduates or co-signing parents who can't make payment on student loans?
It really isn't. I would say it usually isn't a viable solution. Again, what you're looking at is more than likely a Chapter 7 is not going to be an option just to discharge them. There are cases where I've seen where a Chapter 13 and they've made some payments through a Chapter 13 on student loans. But again, there's a lot of variables there. You just want to make sure that if you're seeking advice that, you've got the right advice. This would be a time if you're really at a point where you feel like you're drowning in these student loans, or you just can't make the payments that they want, that I would really suggest your listeners give us a call at GuideWell Financial Solutions and see if we can help them.
Well, I know there's been a lot of information covered here, and a lot of information that might not seem that hopeful or optimistic for many people, but it's not really an all sad situation here. So what final words of hope do you have for graduates and their parents?
It really isn't all gloom and doom. I can tell you sitting here that I have two daughters that went through school. One owed a lot of debt. The other owed good bit of debt, but not quite as much. They both survived. One is almost paid out. The other one's very soon to be paid out. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. But the good thing is you're 2.5 times more likely to become employed with a college degree versus not having that. So that's always a plus. And then making your payments on time, build your credit history. So keep in mind these are students coming out that may not have a lot on their credit report. So this will help to factor in a stronger credit score for them. It is a challenge, but they will make it. You just have to have a plan. I think that's the key to all of this.
I can speak from personal experience. I've made just about every possible mistake a person can make when it comes to student loans. I've done the deferments, the forbearances. I've taken advantage of all the situations out there, and I'm still alive.
Yes,
I'm still
Most
kicking.
Most of us
so
survive.
it is definitely something that can be manageable. It's not all doom and gloom, as you put it. Well, Nina, how can people that have been listening here today that want to find out more information, or maybe they want to contact you to get some assistance, how can they do that?
So, Jeff, they can give us a call at 1-800-642-2227. We offer budget and credit counseling sessions. They're free and confidential, non-judgmental. The counselors will be able to offer this either over the phone or in person if they prefer to go into one of our locations. And the counselors are certified. We also have an awful lot of e-learning courses that talk about student loans and budgeting and trying to factor those figures into your budget. And that's available again on our website, which is guidewellfs.org.
Well, Nina Heck, Director of Counseling and Client Services at GuideWell Financial Solutions. Again, that website is guidewellfs.org. Nina, thank you so much for coming by. This is a very hot topic, especially this time of year. I appreciate you coming by and giving us more information.
Thank you.